Now we're going to read chapter 4 of Tuck Everlasting. This is on page number 8 if you want to get out your book and follow along, or you can just follow along with me. At sunset of that same long day, a stranger came strolling up the road from the village and paused at the Foster's gate. Winnie was once again in the yard, this time intent on catching fireflies, and at first she didn't notice him. But after a few moments of watching her, he called out, "Good evening!" He was remarkably tall and narrow, this stranger standing there. His long chin faded off into a thin, apologetic beard, but his suit was a jaunty yellow that seemed to glow a little in the fading light. A black hat dangled from one hand, and as Winnie came toward him, he passed the other through his dry gray hair, settling it smoothly. "Well now," he said in a light voice, "out for fireflies, are you?" "Yes," said Winnie. "A lovely thing to do on a summer evening," said the man richly. "A lovely entertainment. I used to do it myself when I was your age. But of course that was long time ago." He laughed, gesturing in self-deprecation with long, thin fingers. His tall body moved continuously. A foot tapped, a shoulder twitched, and it moved in angles rather jerkily. But at the same time he had a kind of grace, like a well-handled marionette. Indeed, he seemed almost to hang suspended there in the twilight. But Winnie, though she was half charmed, was suddenly reminded of the stiff black ribbons that had hung on the door of the cottage for her grandfather's funeral. She frowned and looked at the man more closely, but his smile seemed perfectly all right, quite agreeable and friendly. "Is this your house?" asked the man, folding his arms now and leaning against the gate. "Yes," said Winnie. "Do you want to see my father?" "Perhaps in a bit," said the man, "but I'd like to talk to you first. Have you and your family lived here long?" "Oh, yes," said Winnie. "We lived here forever." "Forever?" the man echoed thoughtfully. It was not a question, but Winnie decided to explain anyway. "Well, not forever, of course, but as long as there have been any people here. My grandmother was born here. She says this was where all trees once, just one big forest everywhere around, but it's mostly all cut down now, except for the wood." "I see," said the man, pulling at his beard. "So of course you know everyone and everything that goes on." "Well, not especially," said Winnie. "At least I don't. Why?" The man lifted his eyebrows. "Oh," he said, "I'm looking for someone, a family." "I don't know anybody much," said Winnie, with a shrug, "but my father might. You could ask him." "I believe I shall," said the man. "I do believe I shall." At this moment the cottage door opened, and in the lamp glow that spilled across the grass, Winnie's grandmother appeared. "Winifred, who are you talking to out there?" "It's a man, Granny," she called back. "He says he's looking for someone." "What's that?" said the old woman. She picked up her skirt and came down the path to the gate. "What did you say he wants?" The man on the other side of the fence bowed slightly. "Good evening, madam," he said. "How delightful to see you looking so fit." "And why shouldn't I be fit?" she retorted, peering at him through the fading light. His yellow suit seemed to surprise her, and she squinted suspiciously. "We haven't met that I can recall. Who are you? Who are you looking for?" The man answered neither of these questions. Instead, he said, "This young lady tells me you've lived here for a long time, so I thought you would probably know everyone who comes and goes." The old woman shook her head. "I don't know everyone," she said, "nor do I want to, and I don't stand outside in the dark discussing such a thing with strangers. Neither does Winifred, so—" And then she paused, for though the twilight sounds of crickets and sighing trees, a faint, surprising wisp of music came floating to them, and all three turned toward it, toward the wood. It was a tinkling little melody, and in a few moments it stopped. "My stars," said Winnie's grandmother, her eyes around. "I do believe it's coming again after all these years." She pressed her wrinkled hands together, forgetting the man in the yellow suit. "Do you hear that, Winifred? That's it. That's the elf music I told you about. Why, it's been ages since I heard it last. And this is the first time you've ever heard it, isn't it? Wait till we tell your father." And she seized Winnie's hand and turned to go back into the cottage. "Wait," said the man at the gate. He had stiffened and his voice was eager. "You've heard that music before, you say?" But before he could get an answer, it began again and they all stopped to listen. This time it tinkled its way faintly through the little melody 3 times before it faded. "It sounds like a music box," said Winnie when it was over. "Nonsense, it's elves," crowed her grandmother excitedly, and then she said to the man at the gate, "You'll have to excuse us now." She shook the gate and latch under his nose to make sure it was locked, and then, taking Winnie by the hand once more, she marched up the path into the cottage, shutting the door firmly behind her. But the man in the yellow suit stood tapping his foot in the road for a long time alone, looking at the wood. The last stains of sunset had melted away, and the twilight died too. As he stood there, though its remnants clung reluctantly to everything that was pale in color, pebbles, the dusty road, the figure of the man himself, turning them blue and blurry. Then the moon rose. The man came to himself and sighed. His expression was one of intense satisfaction. He put on his hat, and in the moonlight his long fingers were graceful and very white. Then he turned and disappeared down the shadowy road, and as he went he whistled, very softly, the tinkling melody from the wood. Okay, now you have finished reading chapter 4. Let's go ahead and work in our packet to fill in some possible character updates and answer our daily question. Let's turn to our chapter titles first. And we need to come up with a chapter title for chapter 4. Remember yesterday we called chapter 3 The Toad. And I'm moving the camera all over the place, but that's okay. Still follow along. The Toad. Thank you for having patience with me. Let's look at chapter 4. Remember that the chapter title should be a main idea, the name of a character, a quote, the name of a place, or an image or event from the chapter. Go ahead and take a moment to think about what you want to title chapter 4. You can pause the video at this time. Okay? I'm going to name my chapter title The Man in the Yellow Suit. He was a new character that we met, and so I'm going to write in The Man in. Remember that we capitalize every word in the name of a title. The Man in the Yellow Suit. Now, this lets me know that this also reminds me that I need to update my character trait on the man in the yellow suit because we just met him in chapter 4. So we need to have some information about him, about his character and what he looks like. But before we get to the character update, let's go ahead and turn in our packets to the daily question. All right, so you can see that the daily question on chapters 3 to 4, we read 3 yesterday and 4 today, is: why does the stranger wear an expression of satisfaction when he hears the music box coming from the woods? Please rewrite this under day number 3 as follows. I already wrote mine. You should go ahead and write yours at this time. Please push pause on your video and give yourself time to write the daily question for chapters 3 and 4 on day number 3. Okay, now that you have the question written down, let's go ahead and think about what our best possible answer could be. Why does a stranger wear an expression of satisfaction when he hears the music box coming from the woods? Okay, so I'm going to think about, what do I know about the music box? I know that in the chapter about May Tuck, when she was getting dressed, she took something and put it in her pocket. Okay? That was actually the music box. So, remember that also May is coming to the edge of the wood to meet her sons. So we know that May is in the woods. She has a music box. So I'm going to infer that the music box is coming from May. Okay? What I know about the man in the yellow suit is that he is looking for somebody. Okay, I don't know much about what he wants with that person, but I do know that he's looking for somebody. So the fact that he has an expression, which means an emotion showing on his face of satisfaction, okay, when he hears the music box coming from the woods, I know that he must be happy, right? That the music box must be making him feel good for some reason. The only thing that I know is that he's looking for somebody. So if he's looking for somebody and he hears the music box, I probably can infer that the person he's looking for is May Tuck. And if he hears the music box and we know it belongs to May, then he is satisfied because he has found May Tuck based on hearing the music box coming from the woods. Let's go ahead and write that in a complete sentence now. Please pause the video and write your answer in a complete sentence. I'm not going to write the answer for you because I just gave you enough information to write your own sentence answering the question. Please do so at this time. Okay, let's go ahead and turn to our character updates, our character description. We have learned information about a few characters. Please go ahead and write down a couple of new pieces of information. I know for sure we talked about the man in the yellow suit. I know that Winnie was there in chapter 4, that we heard something coming from May Tuck from the woods, and we heard something about Granny Foster, and maybe we can put a couple things, one or two things about the Foster family all together. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and add some information about these characters. Please remember to number them so we will know how many pieces of information we have, and then we can meet the requirement and get full credit on our packets. The last part of the packet, go ahead and pause the video now and then come back. The last part of the packet is, of course, coming up with your different levels of questions. I would like you to take this home tonight and do it as your homework. You need to come up with 3 questions, 1 right there question, 1 think and search question, and 1 either on my own or author and me question. Please be sure to label the question. This is for day 3. They can be from chapter 3 or 4. You should already have at least 1 or 2 from chapter 3, so maybe you only need 1 more question from chapter 4. Don't forget to answer your question. You will not get full credit on your homework if you do not also answer the question you come up with. Go ahead and pause the video at this time because you are ready to move on to your exit slip.